You always get that blast of cold air when you walk into the building. It's a sense of palpable transition. It's liminality within liminality, you know? So this is the kitchen. To my knowledge, you haven't yet seen it. It's very easy when you're working on a project of this magnitude, you forget all of the things that you've already done. Like all you can think about is the stuff that you haven't done yet. As soon as you actually improve something or finish a project, you just forget it. So it's helpful from time to time to remember that we have actually done stuff. The kitchen is built off of the back of the main building, in large part because of like fire concerns. There's cooking and that sort of thing, so if there's fires, you're sort of isolated from the main building, have a better chance of putting them out, which is the same reason the boiler house is in a separate building with steam tunnels connecting it to the main building. So this is the last roof that we did. Since we bought the building, the cycle of our year has been dominated by thinking about roofs, doing work in preparation for fixing roofs, and then fixing roofs right before the fall when you go back into a weather-induced dormancy, like a hibernation period. So the kitchen roof is the one that we did at the end of last year. And it took a good deal of work to prep for it. As you can see, this beam is new. It's a new glue lamb, which is an innovation that in part was developed at the University of Idaho. We also had to replace a bunch of this roof over here. You can see this new stuff. And then in what will be the once and future kitchen, there was a giant hole on this side with a ineffectual trash can catching the water. So we had to replace all of this roof in order to fix the roof. The kitchen is not without challenges, because when we approached the city about like, can we get a building permit? Can we actually get a new use in this building? Which was not a given because it's not zoned for any of the cool things that we want to do. The city said, yes, you can actually do those cool things, including some kind of cafe in this kitchen, but we really want you to have a sprinkler system just in the parts of the building that you want to occupy, which is an incredible concession versus putting a sprinkler system in the whole building. Because if you did that, then you would have to really have a plan for what you were doing in the whole building, which is a very tall order. But even just putting a sprinkler system in the area that we want to occupy, including this, is daunting. So it's something that I spend a lot of time working on the logistics of. And a lot of references to children's storybook classics today, but Katie No Pocket, the kangaroo without pockets that sees the workman with his apron full of pockets. She is shunned and outcast because of her pocketed less status. And then she gets the best. And then she has a bajillion pockets, and then all of the baby animals from the other species are also in her pockets, and she becomes the envy of all the other animals who only have like single pockets. And I feel like that right now. I got a reasonable number of pockets.
Is the moral of the story you're finally happy and fulfilled when other people envy you?
It is a straight up Joseph story. It is about the elevation of the youngest. I mean, all those other animals deserve to feel the shame of their former rejection of her when she's glorified. I think that's how it goes. I'd have to look it up. Maybe I'm misremembering it. I'm sure it's a wholesome. You know, I'm really bad at Balderdash. You know that game where you're supposed to make up dictionary words?
Yeah.
I'm not good at it. I think a lot about the difference that just one occupied use would make in this building. Last Saturday, we had a bunch of people come and help us for like a community cleanup day. We got tons of trash out of the building and it was incredible. But one of the things that struck me is that the building has a certain energy when you're in it by yourself. Just you in the building, quiet, uncanny. But when we were all in the building together working on cleaning up the building, it was such a good feeling. Not only was it fun to work with people in the building, but it also sort of enlivened the building. And I was like, I would never lose the sort of quiet energy of the other things, but I would love for there to be more of this life in the building, you know?
Do you think it has something to do with the input of a new spirit into it? And that by working on it, there is this spiritual activity that is very positive and we would assume pleasing to God.
Yeah, there's a restoration of what I assume even when it was a hospital and it was people in life's extremes, that there was an incredible amount of joy just in the daily rhythm and just the intensity of the great joys of life, like all the people who were born here, and then great griefs, all the people who died here. All of those things sort of mixed together with the daily rhythm of the people who lived here must have been a really incredible thing. So when that happened, I was like, I really have to get back to the place where there's some occupied use. People can come here on a regular basis and experience a part of the building as alive. And I think that's what the kitchen is. This is a dining room. There's probably some booths along here, like booth back, and then table under the windows. And then in this main space, you'll come in through here, and then there'll be like a counter here, cafe counter, cold case, deli, espresso machine, checkout, some kind of like pendant light, schoolhouse lights. One of the coolest features of the kitchen is this clear story window. I guess it's going to be called a monitor because of the way that it comes up off of the roof, but it lets so much light in here. And originally when the nuns were in here, they had the range right here. So this massive range. When we cut it out, it smelled like burgers because of the amount of burgers that had been made. But they cut it out in pieces because it wouldn't fit out the door. And it gave us a great burger smell. It was a haunted burger smell. There were no burgers, but we were smelling burgers. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that people say often is that like they took photos when they were in the building, and then later they looked at them, and that only at that point did they see the spectral figures. Obviously, a lot of people have negative memories of Catholic school days and nuns, so nuns become like a trope in horror. I'm sure there were grumpy nuns. I didn't know any of them to be grumpy nuns, so it feels disrespectful to make them the ghosts. The main people that people remember as ghosts is that this was an adult care home after it was the hospital. So it was adults with significant developmental disabilities. One of the ladies, the most famous ghost, I think, Rose, had Tourette's. So she would go around town swearing to herself, at her finger, that kind of thing. And so she appears as a ghost quite a bit. But I think you would have to go deeper. The first person who died here got smushed between two train cars. So just go with that guy.
Flat Stanley?
The kitchen is definitely the place that I've had the most ghostly dreams about. I used to dream about no one cares about anyone else's dreams. This is the point we've reached in the day. The steam tunnels under the building from the boiler house to the main building are in the basement, and they were flooded, so there was water in them. And there were suitcases floating in the water in the boiler house because they had just loaded up all these suitcases in that room. I used to have a recurring dream where I was in the steam tunnels in the water, kind of like pushing through the suitcases, you know? And then the city redid this street and said, do you want the steam tunnels to stay? And I was like, absolutely not, because they had asbestos covered pipes in them. And so they just made them disappear. So the dreams stopped.
The dreams stopped once they got rid of the steam tunnels?
Yeah, once the steam tunnels didn't exist, I stopped dreaming about them. But I did dream about the kitchen a lot too, and I think it's because it's easy for me to imagine the life in here. So in the dream, I would come into the kitchen, it'd be dark, lights coming through the monitor up ahead, but it's otherwise pretty dark, and there would be a nun in the kitchen. My friend who's helped with the tours in the past told me an absolutely wonderful story. There's a closet in the kitchen here, like under the stairs, and it's lined with tin, and it has radiator pipes in the bottom of it. The radiator pipes would have obviously heated this little closet, and it was a room for proofing bread. So you bake bread, and you put the bread in there, and it rises. When her aunt was born in the hospital here, she was a preemie, and everybody thought that she was going to die. So the doctor put her in a basket and put her in the bread proofing closet. And that's where she was for like the first week and a half of her mortal life, was in a basket in the bread proofing closet. Please, more of those stories. There ain't no way you're getting a good shot of this. The early days of linoleum, it was actually a completely organic product. Wood fiber of some kind mixed with linseed and then printed. So like you can actually restore old linoleum by adding more linseed oil. I don't know if I'm going to do that because that seems like a thing a crazy person would do. This is a pizza oven.
It's not a baby incubator oven?
No, no babies were saved in this pizza oven.
Well, then it can be gotten rid of.
One of the worst impulses in an abandoned building is to like open the doors of appliances. This building used to be full of refrigerators and chest freezers because there were apartments everywhere. And when people would come in, they would see a chest freezer that hasn't been plugged in for 50 years. And they'd be like, I wonder what's inside. And the answer was meat juices. The answer was always meat juices. Everyone had to. So what we would do is I would take duct tape and I would duct tape all of because there's no elevator. We pushed them out the window ultimately. We pushed refrigerators out the window. I would tape them shut with the duct tape so that people wouldn't open them, and then people would persist in opening them anyway. So eventually we stacked like metal mattresses on top of the chest freezers. People could not stop opening the chest freezers, and I really understand this impulse because I have been into houses that are abandoned, and you see a fridge and you're like, a door that I could open. Like there's just something very human about being like, I should open, but why would I do that? You know? And this is not even something that I would expect.
Find anything interesting in?
Yeah, I hope not. My gosh. Just like Urban Exploration 101, you don't need to know what's in the refrigerator.
Okay.